This is what the winner of 7 Super Bowls and 5-time Super Bowl MVP and arguably the GOAT looked like at the Combine in 2000. And this photo, plus his testing results, dropped him to the 6th round. To quote a scout on the Combine evaluation, awful, weak, and here's my favorite, he'll make someone a good husband. The 2024 Combine starts this Thursday, and just like every year, QBs will be evaluated on worthless testing and unrealistic throwing drills. And I'm going to tell you why the NFL Combine is a totally flawed system in evaluating quarterbacks. That's next on My Take. This is QB Unfiltered. I'm Coach Keith Simons. That dude that they said would make a good husband in the 2000 Orange Bowl against Alabama, a top flight competition, Tom Brady was 34 for 46 for 369 yards and 4 touchdown passes. Twice he brought Michigan from behind 14 points, twice, to win the game in overtime. And you would have thought that that would have been an inkling for a whole bunch of NFL teams. Not even close. Didn't matter. That photo plus his 5.2440 and his 24.5-inch vertical jump. And by the way, there were 15 offensive linemen at that combine that ran faster and jumped higher than Tom Brady. Those numbers, plus all of the other subpar, worthless testing criteria, dropped Michigan's starting QB down to the 6th round. And all he did was go on to win 7 Super Bowl championships and cement himself right now as the greatest quarterback in NFL history. There is a major flaw in the system of evaluating NFL quarterbacks or potential NFL quarterbacks. The flaws are these. The wrong people are making the evaluation. Physical skills are paramount, and the tests that these quarterbacks are asked to do at the Combine have absolutely zero to do with whether a guy's a good quarterback or not. Absolutely zero. Okay, quarterbacks are selected based on what they look like at the Combine, how they test, what they look like without a shirt on. Teams draft them, sign them to huge contracts, and then are totally frustrated when these guys turn out to be subpar quarterbacks. And the selecting the wrong guy in the draft at the quarterback position puts your franchise back years. It happens every year. It's going to happen again this year in the 2024 draft. The system is flawed. It's antiquated and it's flawed. Number one, the wrong people are making the evaluations. Now, it is absolutely unbelievable to me that team owners are making the selection of quarterbacks in some cases. For example, you've got a guy like Jerry Jones, who is an oil man. He played college football. He was a lineman for the University of Arkansas. Jerry Jones doesn't know whether the ball is pumped or stuffed when it comes to quarterback play or evaluating quarterbacks or knowing what to look at in evaluating quarterbacks, but he's going to be one of the lead evaluators in selecting a QB for the Dallas Cowboys. That is crazy. And you've got guys in the front office and guys in the scouting department that aren't qualified to select quarterbacks or judge quarterbacks. Okay, the second reason that the Combine is flawed in evaluating quarterbacks, physical skills are paramount, and that is it. Physical skills, and that is it. And it's the wrong physical skills. Okay, so they'll talk about arm strength, which if you listed the top 10 skills that a quarterback has to have to be a great QB in the NFL, arm strength might be at the end of that list and maybe not even on the list. But that's what everybody's going to talk about. The one area, though, that just really blows me away is the amount of weight that they put on the testing, the physical testing that they do at the combine with these quarterbacks. Every single thing that they do test-wise is worthless. From the 40-yard sprint, which doesn't mean shit when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks, to the bench press, which again is wasted, to the vertical jump, to the hand size, to the wingspan, to the broad jump, to the 3-cone drill. Those drills are okay for evaluating certain positions when you're talking about fast twitch muscle fiber and explosiveness. That has nothing to do with playing the quarterback position. Nothing. Okay. The only drills that they put the QBs through at the combine that are even remotely close to being important are the throwing drills, and those are even flawed. We'll talk about those more in a bit. Okay, but you take now the wrong people making the decisions. They're basing those decisions off of the wrong criteria, and then they spend draft picks on quarterbacks that aren't very good when they get them. And that happens every single year. So what should every team in the NFL be looking for in a quarterback? This is my list. Number one, and I don't think there's any other one that comes close to this, and that is a decision maker on and off the field. What kind of a decision maker is your quarterback? We're talking about what he does when the ball's snapped and they're throwing the rock. That has to be paramount, because there's a whole bunch of guys that physically pass the eye test and have that quote unquote arm strength, but they can't think worth a shit. They make slow decisions, or they make selfish, poor decisions, and that will kill your offense just like that. And then the off the field decisions. Okay, there's a 100% correlation between guys that do stupid stuff off the field and then they do stupid stuff on the field. Guys that are careless off the field and guys that are careless on the field. They go hand in hand. Number two, how fast and how well does he process information? I mean, I've done another show on this where NFL coordinators go into games with like 250 plays on their call sheet, and they've got these play calls that take forever to call in the huddle. And these quarterbacks have got a lot of stuff to think about. Protections, side adjustments, blitz checks, run checks, and then the passing game. All right. And how fast do these guys process that information? And then when the ball's snapped, how fast do they process it? And, that's a big one for me. And I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But I watch NFL quarterbacks this last season, and there's some guys in the passing game that there is like a delay upstairs with what they're seeing and what their brain's telling them to do. And in the passing game, if your timing is slow, if you get the ball out of your hand late, if you get the ball to the receiver late, it has a huge effect on the play. Huge effect. Okay, next, leader. What kind of a leader is he on the field and off the field? And they are both equally important. What kind of a leader is he? Does he take charge on the field, or is he soft? In the locker room, okay, your quarterback has to be one of those handful of guys that I call alphas, but your starting quarterback is one of those handful of guys that sets the tone and the environment in your locker room. If you've got a great locker room and you've got your starting quarterback as one of those guys that controls everything in there, then you're probably going to be successful on the field. If you've got a guy who is weak in the locker room, and, just to be blunt about this, every football team at every level in the locker room, you've got guys that are what I call locker room lawyers or shitheads. And those are guys with really divisive, bad attitudes. And if they're not squashed, or they're not, they don't get their attitude turned in the direction it needs to go, and they're allowed to recruit other players and spout their bullshit and their theories and all their divisive stuff, then you've got a team like, for example, the New Orleans Saints this year. Okay, next, competitor. And with competitor, I also call these guys ballers. Is this a guy that is going to bust his ass 4 quarters a game, every game during the season, whether you're behind or ahead? He wants to win and compete. He's a baller. He gets after it because your offense is going to develop the same characteristics as your starting quarterback exhibits on the field and in the locker room. Okay, if he's a baller, if he's competitor, if he doesn't tap out, if he doesn't lay down, if he doesn't pout, if he can handle adversity, and if he competes and gets after it, plays hurt, all of those things, that's what you're looking for in a guy that you draft. And then to go along with that, attitude / swagger. Okay, you go back and you look at the draft notes on some of these quarterbacks that are now really high visible Super Bowl champion QBs, and Patrick Mahomes is at the top of that list. And one of the things that was listed about him in the combine evaluation of him when he came out as a senior at Texas Tech was his confidence and swagger. Confidence and swagger. And not only having confidence and swagger, but real confidence. Okay, there's a difference between a guy that has real swagger and a guy that is pretending to have it. Okay, his teammates will see the difference between that, and the opposing team will also see the difference between that. You want a guy that has a little bit of a bounce and swagger in his step, in everything he does on the field, because his teammates are going to follow suit. Okay, physically then, he needs to be an accurate passer. And I'm not talking about arm strength here. I'm talking about accuracy with his arm. Okay, that arm strength thing, I mean, you could list a who's who of QBs in the NFL that, quote unquote, couldn't break an egg with a throw, who were great quarterbacks. And a couple of those guys that stand out to me are Joe Montana and Kenny Stabler and Drew Brees. Okay, those guys didn't have strong arms, but they were accurate. They put the ball on people. And that's what's most important with the quarterback. I mean, how many QBs throughout time in the NFL have had these shotguns for arms, could throw it through a brick wall, but couldn't hit their ass with both hands? Okay, a great example of that is a guy that used to play for the Chicago Bears named Bobby Douglas. Go back and Google that dude. He was a left-hander. He threw the ball harder and had a stronger arm probably than almost everybody that's ever played in the NFL, but he never threw a spiral and he never got the ball close to his receiver, but he had a really strong arm. So, your QB has to be accurate. And then I interviewed Dave Craig recently, and I asked him about his relationship with Joe Montana when they played together with the Kansas City Chiefs, and his relationship with Jim Zorn when they played together on the Seahawks. And he said something that I totally agree with and applaud him for, especially with the Montana issue. Joe took him out, brought him to his house and said, listen, we've got to do that. We've got to get along. We've got to support each other for the good of the team. And Dave Craig said, listen, you're Joe Montana, I'm going to compete against you as hard as I can, but I'm going to be a great teammate. And that's the type of guy you're looking for, a great teammate. Okay. And that there's a lot of forms that falls under, and a lot of situations where you can say that guy's a great teammate or that guy's a horrible teammate. And usually selfishness and being uncoachable falls in with the bad teammate thing, the divisive locker room lawyer type dude, versus the guy that is the baller and the competitor, and his teammates know that he's going to bust his ass and they're going to run through a brick wall for him because he's not only a good player and a good quarterback, he's a good teammate. And that chemistry with those with teammates is so important in the success of your football team. Okay, who should be evaluating the quarterbacks? Very simple. Your quarterback coach and your offensive coordinator. That is it. Your quarterback coach and your offensive coordinator. And hopefully you've got a QB coach that knows what he's doing. And there are some question marks on some dudes in the NFL right now that are coaching quarterbacks. Very easy to see when you watch some of these guys play that they might not be getting coached very well, on Monday through Saturday. But that's got to be it. It's got to be your offensive coordinator and your quarterback coach. Okay, we talked about the drills and the criteria they use at the combine. What should be the method of evaluation for the quarterbacks? And let's talk about that. Number one, the system that they played in college, I think, has got to be a big one. The system that they played in college, some of these guys are coming into the league as quarterbacks with a leg up on everybody else simply because of the system they played in and the coaching that they got at the college level. Okay, so if I'm an NFL guy, I'm evaluating quarterbacks that played in an offense where they threw the ball and the quarterback had to make decisions when they threw the ball, pre and post snap reads, and it wasn't an archaic offense. You've got some of these quarterbacks playing in 2023 this year in college football that are playing in systems that you couldn't even call caveman offenses. The University of Iowa, holy shit. They put up numbers this year offensively that you haven't seen probably since Newt Rockne was coaching. It's just unbelievable. And so, and there's more than just the Iowa quarterback playing in offenses like that. So you've got a lot of guys coming in that are proficient at handing the ball off, and that's it. You're not going to win football games in the NFL with a quarterback that just knows how to hand it off and can't execute the passing game. Okay, game film. When we talk about the QB coaches and the OCs, I mean, these guys have got to go to the colleges, they've got to sit in the film room, and they've got to watch game film. And what are you looking at with game film? Well, it's very, very simple. Most pass offenses are basically have the same concepts and premises and quarterback reads, and they're trying to attack the same areas. And it's common knowledge amongst quarterback guys and offensive coordinators that know what they're looking at. It's common knowledge what the quarterback's reads are based on that play structure versus the coverage that they're getting. So you put the game film on, you see the route that's called, you see the coverage that the defense is in, and now you evaluate the quarterback based on what the defense does on the snap. You know who he's reading as a coach. How fast does he make that decision? Does that process happen in his mind? And does he get the ball to the correct receiver? Another thing that you're evaluating on game film is pocket poise and pocket presence. This one's huge. I'm going to do a full show coming up on Heisman Trophy winner Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels was well coached. He was well coached because he does the little things in the pocket with his feet, sliding, shuffling, to get into windows, to get away from pressure and deliver the football. Those are all things that you're looking for in a quarterback. And a lot of guys that are playing college football panic when they think that the pocket is starting to break down, when in reality it's not. And all they have to do is just slide a step or two, to get away from that perceived pressure and then deliver the football. And so you're looking at those types of movement on film. There's nothing that they do at the combine that tells you whether a quarterback has the ability to do this. You're looking for feet and balance. Feet and balance. Okay. Lamar Jackson, who is really a dangerous quarterback, when he gets his feet and his balance finally squared up, he's really, really going to be dynamite. Because right now, his accuracy problems on throws are all because his balance and his feet are sloppy. Okay, so you're looking at that on college game film. Hell, if I was looking at Joe Montana when he was playing for Notre Dame, you got to see 5 snaps of him at Notre Dame to go, shit, this guy's got great feet, great balance, and great rhythm. Those are all physical skills that go into being a good QB, and they have to be part of the evaluation process. Accurate throws. Okay, accurate throws. There's a big difference between throwing. I'm going to take a 5-yard out route. Okay, we saw a couple of those in the Detroit Lions, San Francisco NFC Championship game, where they were running a quick out like on 4th down and needed a first down. And the key was in the throw, because when you can throw the ball on a receiver where he can catch it in stride and circle the defense or outrun the guy chasing him, that's when first downs happen, move the stick happens, or big plays happen, as opposed to throwing it behind him or low or high where he has to slow down, stop, change direction to catch the ball, and now it's a catch and a tackle. Okay, so accuracy is huge. Back shoulder throws, accuracy. Mahomes throws that great. Those things are big. So it's not arm strength, it's accuracy, putting the ball on the receivers where they can do something with it, throwing receivers open. So if I'm a quarterback coach watching a college quarterback on film, I'm watching him throw these routes. Is he putting the ball on a receiver where he's throwing him open? Now, what do I mean by that? Let's talk about a receiver running let's say a choice route. Okay, Travis Kelce and Mahomes kill defenses with this, where Kelce drives downfield and he reads the leverage of the defender that's dropping, and then he'll just sink down and like reverse pivot away from that guy. Well, Mahomes puts it on that outside shoulder, okay, away from that defender, so that Kelce can just catch the ball and turn it up that way and go. That's throwing a receiver open, as opposed to Kelce reverse pivots, but Mahomes throws it to his inside shoulder now, the same side that that defender is at. And now we've got balls knocked down and we've got a catch and tackle situation, throwing guys open. Same thing with back shoulder verticals, throwing guys open. It's a skill. Competitiveness versus a soft quarterback. Okay, are these guys playing hurt? Do they tap out when the going gets tough? Do they lay down? How do they play when their team's behind? How do they play when they get hit in the mouth? Okay, that's huge. Mahomes, for all the wild stuff he does and all the freakish stuff he does throwing the ball, Patrick Mahomes is really freaking tough. He is physically and mentally tough. And that is such a huge quality for your starting quarterback to have. because it affects everybody on the team. Everybody on the team. Okay, and then just sitting down with these guys and interviewing them. Okay, and what you're trying to find out here is mental makeup, character stuff. We talked about Tom Brady at the beginning of this show. All you have to do as a quarterback coach or an offensive coordinator at the 2000 Combine was sit in a room with Brady and know right away, this dude has got it. Okay. He had a chip on his shoulder. He was pissed off because he didn't think he was getting the respect that he deserved. Plus, you could tell just listening to interviews that he did when he was a senior at Michigan, this guy had an intense fire inside of him. And how many quarterbacks are starting in the NFL in 2023 that don't have that fire? Okay, I can think of a couple guys that tapped out on their teams this year and refused to play. That's absolute bullshit. Okay. And so sitting and talking with the guy and getting, a feel for what he's made of. You can also measure anxiety. I mean, there's a reason why some of these guys are cool and calm at the end of the game, and some of these guys are like frantic. And anxiety is huge. Mentally tough. Talk to his quarterback coach and his offensive coordinator, but talk to his college quarterback coach. Is this guy mentally tough? Can he handle tough coaching? Okay, Warren Sapp said something on Jason Whitlock's podcast a couple months ago. He was talking about the dudes that are playing in the NFL right now. He said, if you yell at these guys in practice, the next day they're going to show up in a green jersey for practice, which means they're hurt and they can't practice. And he said, not only that, they're going to have their freaking psychiatrist standing right behind them while they tell you that. So, that is huge. How tough is your quarterback mentally? How tough is he? Can he handle tough, aggressive coaching? Because great quarterback coaches are very demanding of their QBs. How does he handle adversity? Okay. What were the situations in college where he had to bring teams back? I go back to Brady and Orange Bowl in 2000 twice. He had to bring Michigan back from a 14-point deficit against Alabama. Okay. That's handling adversity. Is he an alpha? We talked about the locker room presence. Your starting quarterback has to be one of those guys that runs the locker room. Has to happen. Okay. And he's got to be able to be one of those positive guys that runs the locker room. I said, talk to the OC and the quarterback coach at the college. Man, they're telling. If you watch any interviews with Kevin Sumlin, the head coach at Texas A&M, and Cliff Kingsbury, the OC at Texas A&M, when Johnny Manziel was playing there, they basically said in their comments about him what kind of a guy he was. Now, he was winning a whole bunch of games for them, but the way that they talked about his attitude and his playing style and his commitment, I'm like, wow, those are red flags, big time. Talking to the coaches that coach the guys up, finding out, is he coachable? Is he mentally tough? All of those things we talked about. And then check out their social media action. Check that out. You can find a lot of stuff on what some of these dudes are posting on social media or what they're involved with. It's on social media. Speaks volumes about them character-wise. Okay, which have absolutely everything that I just said has absolutely nothing to do with the testing that they put them through at the Combine. Zero. Now, you do have NFL teams. I would imagine most of them are doing the things that I just listed, but do they have the right guys going through those procedures? Or do they have non-football guys doing it or non-quarterback guys doing it? Okay, then let's get to the throwing drills, the unrealistic throwing drills in the combine. And I'm going to, I don't watch the combine simply because it just irritates me so much with the QBs. But one year, the year that Josh Allen was coming out and Gardner Minshew, I watched the day where they threw routes just because I knew what was going to happen. And I was also very interested to see how Gardner Minshew stacked up footwork wise to the other quarterbacks. Okay, so I'm going to start with Josh Allen, and this is the arm strength thing. They're throwing vertical routes, okay? Receiver throwing a vert and or running a vert, and Josh Allen's throwing it. And the guy, I can't remember who was doing the announcing for the, it was the NFL Network. I can't remember, but they were talking about, oh, this guy's got strong arm. I can't wait to watch him throw verticals. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know what's coming. And sure enough, like the first one, receiver takes off. Allen, who I think is really a dynamic quarterback, by the way, and he does have a really strong arm, but that's not what makes him good. Okay, so he takes his drop, 5-step drop, and then he hitches, and hitches. Why is he hitching? He's hitching to allow that receiver to get further downfield because every hitch puts probably about 10 more yards or more on the throw. So the guy's way, 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 way down there. And Josh Allen uncorks this vertical that goes like 75 yards in the air. And the announcers fall out of the booth, and the scouts and everybody that's in attendance there falls out of the stands, and everybody's brain breaks, and totally unrealistic. All right. How many times do you see a quarterback throw a 70-yard ball in the air in a game? The answer to that is 0. It doesn't happen. And the reason why it's unrealistic is when the ball's in the air for 75 yards, it's also in the air for about 5 seconds. And in that amount of time, the cornerback can catch up to the throw. The safety can catch up to the throw. The safety on the other side can catch up to the throw. The cornerback on the other side can go across the field and catch up to the throw. And probably some backup DBs on the sideline can run across the field and get in on the throw. And that's why you don't see it in a game situation. So what are we doing here? What are we doing? Okay, so you've got that one. And then you've got, I think that the two throws that determine, in my mind, the two throws that measure accuracy the best are throwing corner routes and dig routes. Anytime you've got a receiver that's running full speed away from you or at an angle, full speed, and you've got to put the ball on a rope, I call it throwing a 1, okay, putting it on a line and hit that guy in stride. That measures a quarterback's accuracy and ability. They call it arm talent. And that's another term that just kills me, arm talent. And so we're throwing corner routes now, and all these quarterbacks are throwing the damn ball late. They're throwing it late. Well, like we said, when's the receiver the most open on a corner route? If they run a 10-yard stem and at that 10-yard mark, they stick that toe in the ground and burst it to the corner, they're going to be the most open at 10 yards when they stick their toe and start to burst. Because as soon as they start to burst, the safety or anybody else that's in coverage now knows what they're running and they're converging on them. So if that ball is not out when it should be out, now you run into the problem again where you've got DBs that can recover and get there. But every one of these guys is throwing the ball late. Every one. And it's just driving me nuts. Now let's go to Minshew, and they're throwing slant routes. And this is the one I really wanted to watch because these guys are running quick routes, and the quarterback's feet have got to be right. Most of them aren't, and most of them in 2023 weren't. And here we go. These guys are throwing slants. They're throwing slants, and the announcers, yeah, oh yeah, what a tight spiral. That ball had some smoke on it. Man, he put it right between the numbers, and wow, beautiful. And it takes Michael Irvin, a non-quarterback, but a receiver, pretty damn good one, to say, he's one of the commentators. He goes, it doesn't matter how hard those balls are coming or what type of spiral it has, or even where the ball hits the receiver. He goes, every one of these slant routes is thrown late, and every one of these receivers is getting knocked out of the game by the safeties coming downhill and just blowing them up, which is true. And then you look at Minshew, who's in the air raid offense for Mike Leach and knows about footwork and routes, and his feet are boom, 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 the ball's out. So he's three quick, and that ball is out, and he's throwing it before those receivers make their break on the slant, and they're catching it coming right out of the break. But that's not talked about, and it's probably not evaluated by anybody there making evaluations, because they're looking at arm strength and everything else but timing and anticipation. With those throwing drills, if they wanted to make this a realistic type deal, have the quarterbacks drop and then put them in a situation where they have to change their feet, reset their feet, and throw the ball. In other words, make it like a realistic pocket environment that they face on game day. Very rarely does a quarterback take his drop and throw the ball with no one around him, in rhythm, perfect world, the birds are singing, the sun's out. No, that's not what happens. Usually what happens is a quarterback takes his drop and then is forced to move, either climb the pocket, shuffle back away from the line of scrimmage, or I called it pedal and scoot, which is side to side, and then get his feet set and deliver the ball. Doing drills where you can evaluate quarterbacks doing that. Okay, so there is a quarterback trainer named George Whitfield. He works out of Southern California, and he did Johnny Manziel's pro day when he was a senior, or when he was coming out at Texas A&M. And Whitfield got ridiculed for some of the drills he was doing because he would take a broom, and when Manziel would drop, he would take that broom and just sort of swipe it at him like he's a defender, trying to swat at him. And he'd make Manziel change directions to avoid getting hit, still keeping his eyes downfield, making a throw call. So the guy, Manziel gets his feet set and gets the ball out, replicating the environment of what happens in a live pass rush situation with a pocket environment for a quarterback. That's how you evaluate a guy throwing to receivers, is all that other crap he's got to deal with in the pocket. Here are some takes and analysis from NFL scouts on Brock Purdy. These just really kill me. Okay, here we go. One scout in all capital letters, no interest. Okay, this is coming out of the combine. Less than ideal height, less than ideal hand size, which means absolutely nothing to a quarterback. Average speed, average vertical jump, not very impressive. Those don't mean a damn thing either. Did not test well. Okay. Didn't throw it well. It's got a weak arm. His twitchiness is just not there. And what they're talking about here is fast twitch muscle fiber, explosive, things that measure that, the vertical jump and the three cone drill. Quarterbacks don't need to be twitchy. Okay. He's a limited athlete that has maxed out his body. Okay. Now, here's what else they said about him. So, all of those other evaluations and comments on him, not to mention the fact he looks like he's about 7 years old, caused him to be drafted the last pick in the draft, the very last guy selected. That's the same dude that just lined up for San Francisco in the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago. Okay, here's what else they said about him. He doesn't make boneheaded mistakes. He's very mature and experienced. He makes routine plays consistently. Imagine that. He was creative as the play extends. He works through progressions very well. Imagine that. Okay? The 49ers said, after they saw him for a while, they said, we undervalued his ability and his mental side. Okay? Well, you know, you go back and you look at Brock Purdy at Iowa State, and you look at all of the things that we talked about earlier in the show about what he should have been evaluated on, plus what I just said, doesn't make boneheaded mistakes, is very mature and experienced, and works through progressions. So they're talking about his read progressions in the passing game. But we're going to put our stock in a guy running a fast 40 time and being able to bench press 225 pounds X amount of times. Okay, I think where we're going with this combine, I think we're going to start to see more and more quarterbacks that are going to be no-shows at the NFL combine, because let's face it, these guys are being evaluated, if they're being evaluated right, by what they do in college and on college game film. Okay. I think that the quarterbacks that come to the combine, if they don't have a good workout, if they don't test well, it really hurts them. And I think these quarterbacks and their agents now are starting to figure that out. I think that the NFL, as I said, is antiquated, and they do stuff that is just really, I don't think, very smart, and they're very slow to evolve. I think we're going to start seeing steps with this where hopefully they start getting smarter in how they evaluate quarterbacks. But right now, the combine is a really poor way. It's very flawed. Now, who do I like? Who do I like this year coming out? I like Jaden Daniels and I like Michael Penix Jr. I think those two guys, based on everything I've seen from them this year, on the field and off the field, those are two guys that are going to do some things in the NFL. I think that these other two guys are solid guys. Just not sure yet. Bo Nix for sure, not sure, but a solid guy. And then Drake May. Okay. And I think Drake May's got a chance to be pretty decent too. But I think Daniels and Penix are guys that are going to be surefire dudes. And the question mark for me is Caleb Williams. I think other than his physical ability, I think a lot of the other things that go into making Caleb Williams are question marks. We'll see. One thing is certain, though, guys, and that is there will be teams again in the draft this spring that select the wrong quarterback, that make the wrong decision, that use the wrong criteria, and end up with a wasted draft pick. That's guaranteed. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share this with your buddies. This is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.